So, but that particular document takes out grants and it takes out service, so everything is separate. Because schools operate in funds, and those are all in different funds.
So you don't get total expenditures plus fund?
Not exactly what you would think of it. So.
But how are you?
Is that a new speaker?
Ain't mine.
Oh. Yeah, I thought I wasn't sure if I.
Oh, you're getting all fancy on us? You're getting like. Yeah. You're getting all high tech over here, man.
I'm move this maybe so.
Let's see.
So I think all is set up. The creator is in a free spirit. His daughter we sent to Europe. I haven't back. She's been back, but working.
Okay.
Maybe, I don't know. I get a text. Oh, I just found a place. I can go to the U.S. Virgin Islands and back for $388. I found she called it some kind of room anyway for $275, and
Yes.
I'm only short about.
I won't let it go to you.
By the time I leave, I'll have that much money. And I said, oh, God, I'm going to work tonight. She said, she thought they got yeah, that's kind of a creepy.
That's how I was when I got back from Costa Rica.
Huh?
Well, I was when I got back from Costa Rica. What hang on,
Yeah.
You just did it, but then that's why I said like, as soon as we're getting on a plane, I can't wait. I'm not going far, but I'm on a plane. Good for her.
Yeah.
At some point, she does need to take that.
I think by the end of the month, she has to decide she's going to for this coming semester. But the applications have to be. She has one in, she's been accepted at Eckerd, which is a good.
Today's the 18th.
School, which is sustainability stuff that she likes, so she wants to study. And she likes it. She's been interested in it. And there are two other schools, so but she's been talking to me about.
No, just for school board chair, sorry. Yeah, there you go.
So visit these other two schools. And you just, and if you can, actually, if you can book a ticket to go to the open house, certainly drive
One is not.
wherever. So she's got a son from there, send it.
Last year.
So, you know, I'm going to just.
And both girls are voters. So. Budget. Hi. I'm well, thanks.
They keep coming to my neighbor. They have our address wrong.
Yeah, these are, I think they're not shipped. It's tax stuff. Probably. IRS section here.
Ooh, where'd those come from?
Andrew,
What are we talking about?
About 358? That's us.
You asked me a question, what?
Let's see what they want.
oh,
Usually they send it
Haven't looked at
for,
anything yet.
21. That's interesting.
they want money?
Oh, they want money. No, I would love it if they sent me money. Usually they send me a letter and say, we've changed your name. You know, they'll have to dig into that to find out what the deal is. Let's see. For your reference. Yeah. Pay information error notice. Maybe incorrect. Okay, so we'll find out what we've got. Oh, that's it. So, the whole time that we've been with them, we get notifications every 4 or 6 months because there must be another name in the system tied to So, I just file them and whatever. But the agent will have to figure this one out and see what they've got going. Because they sent me back the check last spring. Always fun to call them.
I know.
45 minutes or an hour. I just put the music on.
You're gonna make me do stuff here?
Just sign a bunch of stuff.
Need my money. Oh, wait.
One, 750th.
Joyful and scary. Recognize that's what we are.
Recognize that I'm trying to learn some different Latin, and that was kind of this is for my class, but I was telling her that the kids' ones were adorable. Things like fun, welcoming, joyful, caring. I like things that involve lots of reading and math.
I think, but I think for parents, great teacher is approachable. Because, you know, and is empathetic with you. Because everyone comes from different.
Right.
I'm like, they're so comfortable. You know, the in between.
Oh, I'll put my sneakers on. New Balances are really good.
They're really comfortable.
I agree.
Love them. Very nice. Yeah. Well, I once went to a New Balance store. Could have like dogs. Oh,
Oh, yes.
really nice.
That was loud.
Have you ever gone to? Oh.
What?
It's old age.
Here and here. I know. Now you just covered it up.
Like, didn't find us. There's two cover sheets. This is just for the form of this. That's it. No, thanks. No, yeah, you know, send it on.
Hey, Frank. Here you go. Sign away. I don't think it's just you. If you was yeah, it's just in the event that you're ever. It's nice to work. Yeah.
There it is. Sure.
I call meeting to order at 6:30. Roll call, starting to my left.
Kevin Marsh.
Jody Underwood. We start with public forum number 1. Does anybody in the public have anything? No? What?
Yes.
The United States of America, to the republic, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Anybody else, public forum, anyone? All right, any additions or changes to the agenda? I don't think so. All right, we have minutes to approve from September 20th. Kevin, there's just one change. But do you get notification when there was that?
No.
Of course not. In public forum number 1, we wrote that Hope announced that she's running for state senate, but it's going to be state representative.
Oh.
So that should be changed.
My mistake. I'm trying to get her promoted before she's even got a job.
Yeah.
Just vote.
Accept the minutes as amended.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye.
All right.
And abstention. He wasn't.
Oh.
So when you make that change, if you could write final in the title, then I know what to take to put in the website.
Okay.
Thank you.
And thank you for handling that too.
I don't want to post the wrong ones, so I've been kind of hesitant. Thank you.
All right, superintendent's report.
So, hard in investing time, a great deal of time, and effort for our students. Just kind of a shout out to our staff because they have been doing an exceptional job. We've had some absences, and people are adjusting and making sure the day goes smooth. Just a quick update on the Academy of Thought and Industry, the online school. They have been very good at giving us the information we need to have from them to put our entries into the beginning of year data set. The issue we're having now is at the DOE end, because they do not have a process that seems like immediately available to take information on a school that is not yet fully approved. So I'm sure that'll get figured out. It's just that's where we're at, but otherwise all is going smooth.
Do you know where they're at in the approval process?
They have all their approval materials in. I don't know, have any idea of what's happening with that process. So they've got to the end of the year, so it should not be. I mean, I would be surprised if that became an issue. So both of our board committees that we appointed have met, and both will have reports tonight. We continue to look for a licensed teacher for the 2, 3, and 4 grade classroom. And I think we're at a point where we need to refresh those advertisements. And I think that means that we probably have to spend a little money to do that, but we'll keep trying with that. And we keep continuing to work the networks. We've been able to get our monitor for our bus by just talking to people we know. So anybody, if you know someone who maybe is retired or isn't quite ready to come back to work full time or something, we can always we can make accommodations to work people into various hours to give us some help. So the 2 areas we're looking for really are the regular ed teacher, and then also we could use probably about 4 hours a week of a special education teacher to free up Mary Beth and probably Nicole, who's her certification is coming through also in special ed, who are now providing those direct services. So that's really a hard thing for us to do, and as well as the regular teaching. Although if we get the full-time teacher, then we're good. So we don't have to worry about it. So however it works out. We're learning to be flexible. I think in this environment, everybody has to be as flexible as they can.
So how is it being handled right now in the classroom?
I'm sorry?
What is the teaching distribution?
Right now, I'll let Nicole speak to that.
So Mary Beth is doing K1 and special ed, and then I am doing 2, 3, 4. We do have somebody that comes in at 10 o'clock and teaches language arts so that I can do principal duties during that time. But otherwise, I'm teaching the full day, minus the time that person's in.
And Mary Beth's doing special ed service.
Yeah. So, and that's really hard to make happen, especially now that, she's over doubled her class size from last year.
Thank you.
And the last item is just a quick update on grants. I continue to work on grants. I think I'm going to have difficulty this year with the Title 4A grant, which is for enhancing existing programs. And we've done a lot of work with that grant to use it to improve our music offerings and some of our language arts as well. But we're kind of at where we need to be with those things. And there is a provision which I need to find out more about, where you can actually shift the money from one grant to another. And I think we're probably going to have some needs in IDEA for special needs children. And so I'm going to probably try to shift it from one to the other, and then we'll be able to utilize that money. I hate leaving that money on the table if I can possibly find a way not to. And we continue to work on the needs assessment survey for the community, which I had a really nice meeting this afternoon with Lynn Howe, is the person interested in doing a strategic plan. And part of that process would be, we decided an online survey of the community, which I can use to fulfill the requirement of the survey of the community and families that I need to do for the grant process. So we'll talk more about that later on in the agenda. Okay.
All righty, my turn. So, thinking about recent events that we've had, we had Fire Prevention Week this past week, and we had 2 members of the Croydon Fire Department join us and teach us all about fire safety and prevention. Each student walked away with a new fire hat, a bag of goodies, and some of them even received fire alarms for their homes. So huge shout out to them for helping us out and teaching us a little bit about fire prevention. Professional development, we continue to work on increasing student engagement and self-directed learning. We're doing that through the lens of Universal Design for Learning, or UDL. I recently attended the fall conference for UDL in Concord and learned about several new ways to encourage students to be self-directed. So we'll be using that as part of our professional development throughout the year. And we'll also use beginning of the year data in our future professional development. Our state reports, we continue to complete our beginning of the year reports for the state. Thankfully, Frank was able to hook me up with all of our non-public schools because we have several now. And it's quite a document and a different language that you have to complete. So it's a good amount of back and forth with those schools, but we're very thankful that they did it and got it to me on time so that I could get it to the state on time. So I'm very happy. Upcoming events, we have an open house and pumpkin carving that is going to take place this Thursday from 5 to 6:30. I went and collected pumpkins last night and from Newmont Farm in Fairleigh, Vermont, and so we are ready for the event. Very exciting. They donated pumpkins. We're very thankful. And then, of course, open house so students can show off all their learning things to their families. Picture Day is Friday, in case anybody's interested. And we have our fall harvest musical and Halloween parade on the 31st. So we're going to be presenting a musical Stone Soup to our families, and that's going to be at 10:45. So we're encouraging families to come join us for this musical and then stay for a soup lunch. And Ms. Trainer has been working on the music and the lines with the students, and then Mrs. Corelli has been working on the art. They're creating various vegetable drawings, and in fact, since I wrote this, have even worked with some clay to do pots and things. So very exciting. And then after the lunch, students will go out and get their costumes, and we'll have the parade. We're hoping the parade will start at 12:30. Put the ish there, because you never know. And it was brought to my attention that families prefer when they can give out candy to each student as opposed to a lump group to the teacher. So we'll go do that again this year, so that families can have community members who talk with each other. So we'll switch that up. All right, beginning of the year data. So at this point, students have done their beginning of the year Jones and Pennell reading assessments, as well as the beginning of the year benchmark for STAR reading, math, and early literacy. For the board, on your documents, you'll see various graphs, but for Fountas and Pennell, students in grades 1 through 4 completed that assessment, and it assesses comprehension, accuracy, and fluency. We have 58% of our students reading below grade level, and 42% of students reading at or above. Then our STAR Early Literacy Benchmark Assessment is for grades K to 2. This is the online assessment from Pennell in person. And the Early Literacy Benchmark assesses vocabulary, phonics, language, and numeracy skills. We currently have 39% of our K-2 students needing intervention and 61% on watch or at or above grade level. Then we have our reading benchmark. Am I going too fast, by the way? Doing great? Okay. Reading, for STAR reading, my apologies. That's for students in grades 3 and 4. This assesses a student's ability to analyze literary text, words, skills of knowledge, analyze arguments and evaluate text, comprehension strategies, constructive meaning, understanding author's practice. So there's a lot there. We have 27% of our 3rd and 4th grade students needing intervention, and 73% are on watch for at or above grade level. Then in math for STAR, this assesses the 4 math domains, numbers and operations, algebra, geometry and measurement, data analysis, probability and statistics. We have 26% of our students grades 1 through 4 needing intervention and 74% of students at or above grade level. So those are our numbers for our beginning of the year data.
Can I, no on watch, that's so exciting.
Nope.
Awesome. Thank you. Any sort of your take on it all?
I'm very pleased with our STAR testing data. I would like to see our Fountas and Pinnell improving. The Fountas and Pinnell assessment is in person, and the comprehension questions they ask are really in depth. They're more than surface level, and so that's what typically will get the students. And so that's a really great kicking off point for us as a staff, is to incorporate more of those kinds of questions in our daily teaching. And so I think if we put a little bit more focus in that area, we can make an improvement. And that's, in fact, what I want to see happen, is that we put a little more focus in that area. But I'm very pleased with our scores overall. Our math looks wonderful, so.
Thanks.
No problem.
So these are they're tests that they took at the beginning of the year just to assess kind of like where they're at, so that you can assess how to address each student coming.
Absolutely. So the data that I'm giving you today is their starting point for the year. The data that I get is, I can break students down to every single standard. And then what will happen over our next few months is that I will continue updating these, and you'll get some graphs that talk about like how many students are making improvement. So yes, we may have a student that's on intervention, and they might stay in intervention, but they're making huge gains in that category. So this is where we're all starting, but I'll give you more information as we have more than one test under our belt.
Good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sure.
Is it tracked from year to year as well as progress through the year?
It does, yes. Yep. So for the students that we had last year, I can see graphing from all of the years of testing.
I'm curious whether the testing now contrasted with the spring, do students gain or lose over the summer?
The data that I've seen thus far is that we do have several students that have regressed from summertime, which isn't necessarily surprising. The difference between STAR and Fountas and Pinnell is that Fountas and Pinnell believes if you've met that level, you're not going back. So there isn't a regression in that particular assessment, but STAR certainly can show that. Yep.
I appreciate your focus on the academics.
Yeah, I like data. This is way more exciting than you think.
Particularly when it's moving in that direction.
I know, it makes it way more exciting.
I'm up. So between the data and the pumpkins, I think we're all off to a really good start. So now we'll get into some fun stuff. Sure. So the business report for this month, generally speaking, the month of September and October are really focused on the creation of the financial documents that are utilized in tax rate setting. So the DOE 25 and the MS 25 is a very broad and then a condensed version of how we end the year. So those reports have been completed. The cover sheets have been signed off by the school board. The district will be in line somewhere within the next 7 to 10 days for tax rate setting. We had projected a tax rate around 837 for the school district. It will come in lower than that. We had a little bit of extra funds that we will be sending. Revenue Administration is not currently open, so they're waiting for a little bit more data from the state of New Hampshire within the next 3 days. So we'll be in the queue relatively early. Is into the state for financial to be in the round of tax rate setting. So that encompasses a lot of the month of September. Seems like we just met, so It's not been that long, but September, early October. We have made contact with our audit firm, Robertson Green. We are in a 3-year agreement with them to complete the school district's audit. For individuals who are not aware, schools get audited every single year. There's no, when you flip the books on June 30th, on July 1, you're ready to go for an audit. So every year there is an in-depth review of the general fund, the food service fund, the federal grants. All of those funds are looked at, as well as looking at the overall operation for compliance with accounting standards. So that will be up and coming. We haven't set the exact date. We generally do Croydon somewhere in November, December. Previous board meeting, for those who weren't in attendance, the Croydon Village School really only has 3 pots of money for revenue to support the school. Obviously, the largest is your tax rates. The second is adequacy aid, which is, we call it the big formula. So the state defines an adequate education roughly around $3,800. And education for a child in the Croydon Village School is roughly $22,500. So the state, after they do the formula, they do give the districts back a chunk of money. This year we are going to receive $7,583 less. That is driven by average daily membership. So when your enrollment goes like this, that kind of plays with how much funding you're going to get in the adequacy program. The swept amount, which is the amount raised at the town level. So you have 4 components of your tax bill. You have the local government, which is your town. You have the county, you have the school, and then you have that tiny little swept amount that's like $1 on your tax rate, maybe less in Croydon. That amount will remain the same as what we projected. We continue to work with the federal grant program. Frank talked about it a little bit. Our primary concern is the use of the ESSER funds. We have brought before the board a couple of times work that we would like to do on both of the buildings regarding heating and ventilation. So we continue to work through that process with the state of New Hampshire. It's not easy. They consider it a construction project, and that brings lots of other little requirements with it. So we'll keep working away at that. As I said, the adequacy funding, $391,364 in adequacy aid and $131,572 in state, what they call sweep, which is the 4th component of your tax bill. This time of year, generally, I'll do a staff analysis just to update the board on what we had budgeted and what our projected costs are. Keep in mind that at this point in time, we still have an open certified teaching position that we have not filled. So this number could change. For the purposes of this analysis, I have projected the whole cost of that position. So for certified staff, there's relatively no change. We are in hopes that we will use all of that funding. The only piece that would change in that formula would be benefits, depending on what an individual who is hired picks up. Our medical costs are $39,000 under budget, because currently we have very low usage in the district of those plans. Again, that can change with a qualifying event somewhere during the school year. Dental is on budget, $663. And our support staff salaries are just a little bit over budget, $3,900. And the reason for that is the rates for pay for those individuals were determined after the district meeting. So currently, we are in total, in the salary and benefit line items, we are $35,347 under budget. But again, that can change as we move through the school year. We'll continue utilizing the federal grant program as well as any additional grants that the district becomes eligible for, whether it's for staffing, or needs that are identified at the local school level that will offset our general budget. Enrollment rosters for the individual tuition schools for all of the different schools where we have students have not come in yet in terms of actual placements. We're looking for this time of year the first bill, because that's the true identifier. We get updated numbers, but until you get the bill, we'll have those demographic and financial updates at the November meeting. I did hear from Miss Christie this past week. The Montessori school, they have one student who will be leaving the area, and that opens up a slot for one additional student to enroll at the Montessori school. So she wanted us to pass that along. Tax receipts from the town of Croydon are actually through the month of November as of today. Prior to this report, you can see that we have received a good portion of our tax allocation for this year. The total school assessment in my report will change once tax rates are set. And then we will draw the number from the new tax rate setting number in terms of what the town owes the school district. For folks who come to our meetings, we do receive a monthly flat allocation from the town to run the school. It doesn't come all in one bulk amount or twice a year. In order to keep the expenses moving, we take one allocation each month, and that stabilizes the amount that the town has to give out each month, and it's very predictable. We have updated our trust funds as of June 30th, 2022. The Special Education Trust Fund currently is $137,862. The Facilities Trust Fund is $21,293. The Tuition Fund, we've been working on this one. This has been a goal of the board. Now is $53,259. So in terms of our general tuition, that is roughly 3.5 students tuitioning out to any of our schools. And the Van Sanford Trust Fund is $13,138. We earned roughly $428 in interest this past year on the trust funds. Current cash balance at Mascoma Bank is $222,000. But I do have a Newport bill that just came in, so that will deplete that a little bit. So, and I'm going to have Sotheby's going to be coming relatively soon. So that concludes my report for this evening. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to respond. Sure.
What was the last trust?
Van Sanford.
And what's that for?
That is to support costs for students is the best way I can describe it. So items that are not allocated in the general fund, that the administration or members of the community may come to the board and say, we would really love to see you put in a new Gaga pit. We could draw from that trust fund to do that. So currently, the Gaga pit that's up there, the basketball came from this trust fund.
Can you just,
Yep, and it was donated.
right, it was a house that was
Yep.
left to the town.
Yep.
Sold, and then the money was divvied up in the town.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was specifically targeted to this particular area.
Well, what's the current expense avoidance per month for the teaching position that's currently vacant?
The expense avoidance
Yep.
is, I would say, salary and benefit, $8,000.
And are we, I mean, I'm assuming also that we put the position out everywhere we could. Is
Yeah.
there more aggressive means of finding somebody either through like a recruiter or
So,
firm like that?
so right now, I mean, we're in a little bit of a lull, and Frank talked about it a little bit in his report. Really, the best place is School Spring. That hits all the teachers, actually all across the country. You know, people set their target area for where they want to look. If it's New England, when these jobs get posted, I don't know how many hits did you get from the last.
Ooh, I don't recall, but I know that I also went on, and then it gives you a list of potentials, and I can personally send something to them saying, please take a look at our job.
Yeah.
So I did that with anybody that was in a relative distance as well.
So we're going to go out again. We'll continue to try and fill that position. We've done local, we've done all the local papers. We certainly have networked, all of us, in our own respective areas. Just at this stage of the game,
We're in a tough spot.
we're in a tough spot, yeah.
But
We'll continue.
And I'm also very hopeful that after semester one of college
Yep.
is done.
Yeah, a lot of times December can open up, where there's certain teachers in the field that are looking to get started.
Is that a site that we can access so we could share the link on our Facebook pages?
Yeah, and we also can provide you with the job number.
Okay.
So it's a live link, so you take the job number and you can put it on Facebook and people can click, and it'll take them right to School Spring where they can upload their information. Yeah. Yeah, great, thank you.
All right, moving on to discussion items. So the policy committee met last week, I guess. And really it was just a first meeting. We had some people from the public as well as the people who volunteered to be on the committee, minus one who couldn't make it that night. And we amazingly got together a policy that is ready for the board. This was on kindergarten readiness and enrollment policy. But before we get to that, we were given, Frank, a set of our policies, but I think they might have been old. So you should take a look at that and make sure that they're the right.
That was current as of last year.
No, it's been 2013 on the list that you gave us.
Okay, I will go back and recheck that, but
Thanks.
I have a source I can work through.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so it's really ready for a first reading, but that wasn't really distributed to everybody, was it, for them to look at?
It's in the folder.
It is in the folder, but they have to know to. Without being given a link, it's hard to know it's there. I appreciate Beth telling me that she put the stuff in the folder because then I remembered to go look at everybody's. So thank you. Yeah, it's hard without reminders.
Croydon School District Policy, JEB.
Yes, that is it.
That's a very long policy.
It's very short. Yep,
Do we want to just read through it live and?
we sure can.
Sure, I'll read it out loud for us. Age of enrollment and kindergarten readiness. A student may enter kindergarten if his/her chronological age will be 5 before September 30 of the year of entering school. All students upon registering for admission to kindergarten will be screened for developmental readiness. If they are not ready for full-day kindergarten, parents can opt to wait a year or put them in a half-day kindergarten. CVS will support the appropriate educational programming for every student in collaboration with parents. A student may enter grade 1 if his or her chronological age will be 6 before September 30 of the year of entering school. A birth certificate must be presented upon registration as proof of the date of birth. Incoming transfer students in grades K to 4 inclusive will be initially placed in accordance with the data reported by the sending district. Such placement is tentative and subject to reassignment by the superintendent of schools or his or her designee.
The whole committee
Period.
was really happy to keep language as short and clear as possible, so we were all in agreement on all of this.
I just have a question on the screening for developmental readiness. Just curious to get some more insight on what that means.
Kathy, you want to talk about that?
Sure. I've been doing the kindergarten screenings for the past 6 years. I look at just basic math skills, emergent literacy skills, social emotional development, how they come in, separate from the parents, engage. I look at their speech and language skills, again, from nursery, but it's a one-on-one interaction. I schedule the students for a full hour. Some of the parents like to stay in the room. Sometimes I ask them to leave so that I can see the student away from the parents. And then kind of just put all the documentation in a folder, share it with Nicole, or whoever it is, the principal has, of, my impressions of the student. And
So you're saying
it's pretty comprehensive. It's something I've used in other districts. When I compared with other districts, they use different assessment tools. We're all looking for the same pieces of information. So here's a little bit of writing I asked the kids to do. So it really looks at all of the different areas. But one of the things I'm always looking at is certainly their engagement with me. Are they interested in this information? And one of the things that's really nice that I heard this year, the kids came in and parents reported to me that the kids went home that day and they wanted to buy their new backpack because they were ready for school. That they were excited that they got to come in. It's also an opportunity for them to come in and see their classroom, even if we're cleaning it and putting it together or whatever. But it's, again, just a professional judgment that I make, but I do discuss all the information I collect with Nicole. So if we did ever feel that we had a student that we need to have a further discussion with the parent about their readiness, we would certainly do that. But, does that answer everyone's questions?
I think so. And if you determine that they're not ready, and not even for half day, does that automatically mean that the following year they're still starting, or is there a chance to catch back up to their other peers?
We had that discussion, yes. And so we had talked about how if a student is coming in and they're not completely ready for full day kindergarten, the goal would be that we get them there.
Mm-hmm.
So, if they're coming in, they can do a couple hours, we build on that over time, so that by the, end of the year, hopefully prior to that, they can be with us full time, and then we can determine next steps for the next grade. So we didn't want to say, okay, you came in for half days in kindergarten, you automatically stay in kindergarten again, or you automatically go to first. It's really trying to do a progression with the students.
So it's case by case.
Yeah.
Angie, you had a question? It was about half day in kindergarten. I wasn't aware that we offered that, and I just wasn't sure how that worked. And, if that's a disruption or, I don't want to say inconvenience, but if it is a disruption for the teachers or the students to have somebody there just half a day, and kind of how that is, how it works.
Do you know of anybody that's done half day?
I don't.
Yeah. It would be a very infrequent thing. It would need to be something where that child really has some excessive needs that we probably are aware of beforehand, really. And so we encourage students to come in for full day right from the start. And that's what I would suggest. But if there was an extensive situation, then you have to be mindful of that for the children.
So sometimes students who have gone to preschools, some of them as early as 3 years and 4 years old, they'll be accustomed to being away from their parents or whatever, and so their entry is easier. It doesn't mean that necessarily intellectually or anything else that they're more ready or less ready. It's just that they haven't had the experience, and so it's a strange place, and it takes a while to get used to it. So sometimes those kids, in my career, I've always been extremely flexible with entry, because we don't want anyone being traumatized. At the same time, we want kids to to learn, to begin to separate, to do the things they need to do. So yeah, we try to be very kind of gentle with that.
I just wanted to add, as an early childhood person, that a lot of it is simply the physical exertion of being somewhere and providing attention all day. And it very well may just be that in their development, they still need to cut out after lunch, or they need that nap, or whatever. I know. So most, what I was going to say is most of the time when you have kids that are only there for a partial day, the teachers know what that's like, and they're going to be giving most of the group stuff, and after stuff earlier anyway, because basically until, I mean, I haven't been inside of it. Until maybe Thanksgiving, everybody's pretty much fried half an hour after lunch, right? So kids that might need a half day, they're not gonna miss the stuff that's on.
I think also to comment on the activity, today we structured lunches at 11:30, recess at 12, and then the school day ends at 2:15. So there's, right, so there's just really 1 hour and 45 minutes in the afternoon. And those are often very active and engaging activities in the afternoon. Is that's where I get all their unified arts, you know, music, art, library, and they're getting a little extra movement too. So again, as Lynn just kind of described, that earlier part of the day, you know, those little people are at their freshmen and they have their weekend event, we kind of go through that. But I mean, this afternoon I was in there, you know, and they were doing this little art project, doing things together. But I noticed that Brigham really does a lot of really nice movement, fun activities in the afternoon too. And she has structured her schedule that way, I think, to accommodate knowing that, you know, by 2 o'clock, some of them are like, okay, I'm ready to go home. Right. Yeah, that's usually how they end the day, between 1:30 and 2 o'clock. We see them fatiguing, but again, the school day is ending within a very short. Those were really good questions.
There's an online comment from John, and I'm a little bit confused if he said he prefer not to speak. He said it's just what we're describing doing is physiologically profiling children, or is it psychologically?
Probably psychologically is what you mean.
Psychologically, is it physiological or psychological?
No, it's physiological.
I thought so.
Physiologically.
Profiling children.
So I don't know if this addresses that concern, but we never say, no, you can't come. You know, that's not what we're about. We're about having you come if you want, and if you need the extra time to be comfortable and staying, fine. We'll find ways to accommodate that for you. But we want people to come on time and be part of school. And sometimes there's, what I like about the fact that we are a multi-age kind of program, that if a child does need an extra year, it turns out, to grow a little bit more before they move on, we're able to accommodate that with very little stress around that, because their peer group is not a single age by age. It's more by the kids they work with and play with and choose to be friends with. So we try to be very, very aware of all those things. Never do we prevent anything from moving forward.
So to be clear then, if they aren't ready for full day kindergarten, they still have the option of putting
To be there full day, absolutely.
Discussion with the parents.
Yeah.
So maybe that could be a point of clarification.
Yeah.
And I believe that what you read was that any child that's 5 can come. It was the parents that could choose.
Well, no, it's also.
Right, but what I'm saying is you're not gonna say, the assessments to get a baseline, but you're not gonna say your child is not going to be there. It's in, together with parents, the readiness discussion. You're not saying your 5-year-old can't come. You're not saying that.
Yeah. I don't get that reading this, but I understand.
And it says parents cannot wait a year or have to kindergarten. Understanding what that assessment means. Some kids aren't ready, right, for a lot of different reasons. And parents might know it, but they're afraid to even identify it. And this assessment helps them, you know, maybe come to terms with it, right? That's right.
So does that policy bring closure to the question, somebody had a last meeting about early admission? Is there somebody that is just a few days past September 30th?
Yes.
Good point. That was, you do that case by case, right? That's how it's been done historically.
I mean, someone can always come to the board and ask and petition. They have a right to do that. But our policy is that they do not do that.
September 30th.
So waivers would be handled by us, not you.
But you're right.
With recommendations.
I interpret
for
the
staff,
policy
yeah.
as it is. That's what we go by. And beyond that, it's up to you folks.
The what?
I interpret the policy as it's written, and beyond that, it's the board's decision if they want
To make any
to make an exception or not.
Gotcha.
So it was a first reading, technically speaking, we're supposed to do 2 readings for every policy before we vote on it, so next month we'll look at it again. But no changes to this, and I mean, any recommended changes, things you think about it.
Julie, when's the next policy?
That is such a good question. We're gonna meet monthly, and
We do them every,
Sorry, I couldn't, it's November 1st. Sorry I couldn't make it, my son did with the people. The whole thing won't purchase.
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
Great.
November 1.
Oh, we should.
That's, yeah, we were at first prepare that.
Got it, yeah, sorry about that.
Jody, we referenced November 1st.
We did.
November 8th, and then the following one would be December 13th.
November 1st, and then, not November 8th. That's the school.
November 1st, and then December 13th.
Yes.
You did say November 8th.
That's what we, okay. We figured that was the reason not.
Yes, great. Hereafter, it'll be the second Tuesday,
Right.
but next month it'll be the first, just because it just didn't work out for second, because it was election day, actually.
I mean, anything that I would have would just be a nitpick, but I might suggest where you say if they are not ready for full day kindergarten, say if the parents and staff determine that they're not ready, because it's just a little ambiguous on who's not ready. And it just, because it kind of sounds to me like the administration or the staff are saying, your child is not ready, you can now either wait a year or go have to. Whereas it's actually more collaborative process, and they still have the option of going off. But like I said, it's just a nitpick, and apart from that, I'm okay with it.
Well, as an entry, there are prerequisites to government. So if the parent brings in a 5-year-old and says, here's my 5-year-old, the birthday was in June, they're 5, sign them up. You can't tell them no.
Right.
And so is collaborative by the parent by definition of the law. Your kid seems little, we're not taking, you can't do that.
We had that conversation in the committee, and that's why at the end of that, it says in collaboration with parents or. Exactly. We wanted that. We wanted the parents to be an active member of the conversation.
That's what we're So we know what the next meetings are. We don't know what policies, you were gonna bring the policies forward that we're gonna look at next time.
Yeah, you and I together, we're going to decide. I think what I'm leaning towards is the anti-discrimination policies, because they affect special education, and that can be very contentious. So it's an area where we need to make sure we're up to date. So that's probably where we're headed. On how we procure, purchase, do all that stuff, which we have to visit annually at reorganization to reauthorize. So that'll be something new this year on reorganization. There will be the reauthorization of DBA, or we refer to it as the DBA policy, but it's the financial procurement purchasing that's required by the federal government. Actually, I think we actually have it. It was one of the first policies we did when I came on, but we have not renewed it. So, yeah. So.
Sure. We held our first meeting. It was fairly quick. Our plan is to basically have a consultant more or less guide us through this. We haven't